so excited that you're here. And I know it's kind of probably not very professional of me to gush about how gorgeous you are, but I do, Tanya. I tell everybody all the time, I'm like, you wouldn't believe this powerhouse that I've chatted with. And like we said just before we went live to camera, I'm like, your picture is gorgeous. You're stunning. You're absolutely stunning and smart and. So I can't wait for people to get to know you. I'm so excited.
You're so sweet, Leslie. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to connect again after these couple years. And so I'm excited, especially in this opportunity and venue.
I know, it's really cool. It's kind of fun. And I'm so glad that you said yes, because as I mentioned to you when I asked you to come on to this chat, I was so wowed and fascinated by your story. And your whole backstory is just incredible, having worked with the US Army and now what you're doing with mental health. There's just so much that I was just wowed and fascinated with. So I'm like, you have one of the most fascinating stories I think I've ever come across. So I know you're going to be like, but it's just me and it's just my life. But you're phenomenal. So I'm just going to go through and read your bio that we worked a little bit on together. So Tanya Juarez is a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army with over 20 years of experience leading and managing various programs that focus on behavioral and mental health, which is so cool. And I'm so excited to talk about that with you. You've received many decorations and awards throughout your career, including the Army Social Worker of the Year. You hold a master's of social work, and so you help soldiers and family proactively, well, you used to, manage a variety of mental health issues. And I thought it was just going to be all PTSD. I thought that that's what you would be focusing on. And then you said, actually, there's a much broader spectrum of things that you had to deal with when you were working with the Army.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you've been consistently recognized with leadership and been placed in obviously various positions of responsibility. And now that you've retired from the U.S. Army, which I still can't believe, you don't look like a stereotypical person that probably comes from the Army. I'm sorry, am I gushing a little bit? So now you're currently the vice chairman, the board of directors of the Howard Brain Sciences Foundation, and you've got a few other roles actually in mental health. So we'll talk about that for sure. To really help people really that are suffering from diseases, mental health diseases, and raising awareness about mental health as well. So there's so much to talk about here to unpack. So I sent you the questions ahead of time, and I just really want to acknowledge that even though I'm Canadian and you're American, I want to thank you for your service, because without people like you, we wouldn't have the freedoms that. And we're just like the little brother, the little sister that lives north of you. So I still appreciate your service.
Well, thank you, Leslie. And I actually had the opportunity when I was deployed overseas in the war zone to work with some Canadians on 2 occasions. So thank you, and thanks to them as well. They're a great bunch of guys.
Yeah. As you said, so people can't tell because we're both vertically challenged. But you're 4'10", is that right? Did you 4'11"?
I'm 4'11". I got 1 more inch there. Yeah, sometimes at 5 foot on a good day with a heel. Now that I can wear those, but yes, I am short.
Yeah, and so that makes me feel like I'm towering. I'm 5'2", so I know. I just tell people all the time I'm a Polly Pocket. We're both just like little, But the powerhouse that you are, you had to lead troops in the U.S. Army too, which is like. Did you ever have any sort of, you probably never did because you probably command such a presence, but like ever have any pushback on being a woman or, your diminutive size or anything like that? That's not a question.
We can go there. Yeah. So, what is really funny, I am short, great things come in small packages. I've always held that as my lifelong mantra. But to be honest, Leslie, I honestly did not know or realize how short I was until only about a year ago. Now that's amazing, right? Right before I was about to retire. And so as soon as I came into the military, I was already put in a leadership role immediately, as we all are, but I was already put as the commander of all the medics at the training down at Fort Sam Houston. And so I was already a commander. And so from the very beginning, I just never focused on my size. And so most commanders, most military, most people are a little larger, and they assume that to have a command presence, you need to be pretty tall or at least of average height. And so I never had that mindset. So it really is about leadership, is about confidence as well. So going into it, not even thinking that my stature was a factor. I just stood up there and always looked up with the rest of them and never thought once until the last year. And honestly said to myself, I wonder how I would have approached every situation if I always came to the front with wondering about if they're gonna if I'm gonna be intimidating, if I'm gonna not be intimidating, or are they gonna undermine me because of my side. So that was just not a part of my thoughts. And so yeah, it wasn't easy for me. And now now I am more conscious of it, but then I just go back to where my strengths lie. And hey, I've retired from the military now, and so you can't really tell me much.
No, but I think that makes a huge difference. I think for me, and one of the reasons why I even started this series of podcasts and talking with people, is it's about it's about our mental journey.
Yes.
And about owning our value. And it sounds to me like you just owned your value. You knew exactly what you were bringing to the table, and that, so it didn't factor into anything about stature or anything else, because you just owned it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it came to physically challenging things, that was always there. It was, but I'd never let that keep me back. Just, carrying everything and all the equipment that we need to have. Of course, we have lifelong injuries from that, but when you're young, you don't think about that. You just push through. You just dive in, and with your grit, you just deal with it.
I can't even imagine. I'm like, you told me that you've entered like fitness competitions and things like that, and I am just lazy as all get out. So I can't even imagine what you put yourself through physically and so forth. So it must be kind of wild. But I mean, you kept up, right? So yeah. So there's no one going to tell you couldn't. That's for sure.
I always had that mentality also, and like you said, it's about our mentality and our mental mindset, that I could do whatever I put my mind to. I've instilled that into my children. I have 2 children, 3 grandchildren. You can do whatever. You can do whatever you want. You just need to just dig in, dive in and get it done.
It's so true. And there was a few years ago, and I've told this story to a few different people, but when I was working as an assistant in one of my very first jobs that I was working in, a young woman who was basically the same age as myself came in, and she was a consultant, and she was making tens of thousands of dollars just coming in and providing consulting. And I know her now, fast forward quite a few years later, and I know her now, and I said to her, how did you come in, this young whippersnapper, and come in and tell people how they were going to change things up? And she's like, I didn't know I couldn't, which was me like, I was moving up the corporate ladder, and she just came in and she's like, I just didn't know that I couldn't do that. So, I mean, I think having that attitude really does help people a lot. Imposter syndrome is such a big part of most of our journeys, and it holds us back from doing so much. So, yeah. So anyway, okay. So now I have all these other questions for you that we can wait down the rabbit hole.
Whatever you have, we'll wing it.
We would definitely wing it. So what made you decide to pursue your education and career in mental health? What made you kind of go down that path in the Army?
So I have always been fascinated with people's behaviors, human behaviors, what makes them tick, how the brain works. And so, of course, when I decided to go further my education or just start college, I chose psychology. So that automatically was already, starting my career path and academia of psychology. But I just happened to be walking through the math lab, per se, because I needed to go and get extra help with math. I fell across and came across the...
Me too. I didn't do so well in math either. Go ahead.
I don't want to digress really quick, but right now I work with brilliant mathematicians. So talk about having any type of imposter syndrome. I just tap into their expertise. It's not me. But, I came across the ROTC recruiter. And so she just explained to me that while I'm pursuing my education, I could also work on my leadership, learn my leadership skills, and join the Army as an officer. And I was absolutely wowed by that. And so going in the military for me at that time upon my graduation was essential for me. I had started a little late than most of my peers. I graduated college about 26, but that's because I started my family young. I had already had 2 young children. And so in my mind, I thought, I need to focus, get a career that's going to provide for my family. And in order to do that, I better be all in and stay on top of it. And so I dedicated 100% of my efforts towards being successful in the military prior to entering the military. Yeah. So that's how I came across that.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And so you did, I mean, as you mentioned to me before, the perception of PTSD is sort of where people go with mental health, and the other people in the U.S. Army, and so you said it's really there's depression, there's divorces, there's so many other things that soldiers have to face and struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's not a common misnomer amongst the rest of the public, that once they think of the military and then mental health together, they automatically assume it's just PTSD with post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's not the case. So the military is a microcosm of the rest of society. So within our military ranks, soldiers and families, we have all sorts of issues that we face, all of them, whether it be divorce, marriage, financial issues, all sorts of mental health disorders, from the spectrum of just having ADHD or something that they need to work through and help with, or depression, or to the extreme of having, some significant PTSD, which is an area that seems to be highlighted in the public lately, especially. But that is a good thing, right? Because one of the things that I think that, in our generations, we've noticed that mental health wasn't talked about in the past. There's always a stigma around it, and even more so in the military and first responders. As I told you, my husband's a police officer. My son is a firefighter, paramedic now. And my son-in-law also was in the Coast Guard. So I have a family of first responders, and of course, me being in the military, mental health is not, at one point, not talked about. So I'm a huge advocate of any type of opportunity to talk about mental health and advocate for the treatment and support of it. Just getting out there and just talking about it makes a huge difference, and allows the people that are not comfortable with addressing some internal issues they may be having. But the only way to do that is just to educate everyone about the importance of it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we as a society, thankfully, to your point, it's a good thing that we're actually having these discussions, because there's a lot to destigmatize it all. That it's not just all in your head. That there are so many other different things that go into mental health. That it's not just, just psych yourself out of it. Just buck up. It's so much more than that. So so that kind of leads a little bit into your current role, right? That with, and you've got so many different roles here. With when we started chatting, you were and are still with the Howard Brain, and then
the Howard Brain Science Foundation. Yeah, it's a nonprofit. Yes. And
then there's is it NI2O?
Yeah, it's NI2O, neuronal input to output. Yes, and then the library as well. Yeah.
So three. So what are they all doing? How are they? It's the future tech and technology marrying that up with mental health. So so it's important to just tell you how I even came across this, right? Because I am in the military. I think my last leadership roles before I got out was actually, I was a program manager for all of the Army's domestic violence and child abuse program. And so we still, of course, there's mental health involved in all of that as well. But that was when I just retired. And so one key thing to bring up, and the importance of that we should all remember if we take away with this, is the importance of networking. Because I know that many of us aren't very comfortable, especially when we're younger. The word networking scares us.
And so early on in my career, I ran across another officer within our peer group, and we've kept in touch for over the years. And so he since left the military short after and went in to do great things, but became this phenomenal, renowned neuroscientist, Dr. Howard, who at the time when I was about to retire had an opportunity for me to come on and work as a CEO at Howard Brain Sciences Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And so I jumped at that opportunity because looking at the mission and him describing to me what they do, and what they do is we focus on addressing neurodegenerative diseases through medical technology, through neuromodulation. And if you look on the site, brainsciences.org, you'll see that we have just a numerous amount of fellows from globally that are there to support and advocate to eradicate neurodegenerative diseases. And of course, under that is the umbrella of mental health. And so I thought, well, I'm putting a period at the end of my 20 years, and I'm moving into a space that I can have even a larger impact and advocate for mental health. So I jumped at the opportunity, jumped at it. And so I started off there, and I did that for about a year. But Dr. Howard, actually, his IP is threaded to multiple companies because again, he's a brilliant man, brilliant mathematician, neuroscientist. And so he has a couple other multiple startup companies as well. And the second one is the for-profit, is the NITO. And there I'm the executive vice president of that company as well. Within that, we use neuromodulation, medical technology to address mental health disorders and also neurodegenerative diseases. So I can get into all the details of that because there's so much and it's so exciting. But then there's others as well that we're all involved in. Again, networking and it's just amazing. So then there's iBerry, which is iBerry, AIBERRY.io, and that is using an artificial intelligence platform that detects depression through a video screen, just like this. And so imagine how excited that is, because imagine we're talking right now, and you know, this past issue with COVID, unfortunately but fortunately for us, has increased the opportunity for telemedicine. So for, you know, the individuals that do not have access to mental health services, you and I could be talking right now. I could click my iBerry platform and I could detect whether or not I'm depressed or you're depressed. And so it's very exciting for me just to see how all this has panned out and come together, and to continue to just see where it all leads to.
Oh my God, that is so fascinating. It must be so cool to sort of be on that cutting edge of where the future of all of this is headed, and to be able to support that. And as you said, like, well, all these different branches sort of working together, but all for the betterment, I guess, of mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm such a big champion. I just want other people to know too, that networking is not easy, even for extra. I mean, you said you're an introvert. I'm an extrovert. And I hate networking. It's funny, once I get going, I'm okay. But I'm always like, I can't be bothered. Like, and it's scary for even the most outgoing people to network, because we're all afraid of rejection, and we're all afraid of getting in that room, and like, who am I going to talk to, and do we make the small talk? How do we do all that stuff? So, I mean, I just like to reassure people that even the most outgoing people or extroverted people out there, they also hate networking. We all do.
But personally, I have run into so many people that all they love to do is talk. That's it. So I need to follow those lines and just talk for me.
I love to talk. There's no doubt about that. But it's like getting there, and then like the whole like meeting strangers. And I mean, for me, I get energized by it. By the end of it, I'm like, I'm the last person to leave the party always. Yeah, I am. I love it. But it initially. Pardon me?
I'll keep that in mind when you come visit me in DC.
I know. Well, my friend Amy Riddell, who's I think watching along there, she's the one who made the comment. She has conferences she's my friend that runs the conferences for project managers in DC, in Washington, DC. So she'll be there. I don't know if I don't think I'm there this year, But yeah, maybe next year I'll be by and I'll come and visit you, because Washington's such a great city. I just thought it was so amazing. I mean, I only got to see the Smithsonian, which I fell in love with, and walked around with my buddy Hans, and he was my tour guide to see the White House and all of the amazing things. And we were stationed. Our hotel was right by the Pentagon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We saw a few people in uniform there, which, you know, there's some cute men and so. But it's a beauty. But you're not from Washington originally. Are you from North Carolina? What did you say?
Oh, no. I'm originally from San Diego, California.
Oh, nice.
San Diego. Yes. My husband's originally from here. And then so I've been stationed in this area at least 3 times. And so my children ended up staying here as well. And so we came back to retire and then work on our second career back here in the DC, Maryland area.
Oh, that's awesome. Because it's lovely. I mean, the traffic, maybe not so much, right? The traffic at rush hour is not so fun, but.
Oh, not so fun. But you know what? It hasn't been as bad after, the pandemic. There was none. And then now it's just picking up again. But because of the opportunity that showed most people that work in teleworking is actually very efficient, I think the roads aren't as congested as they used to be.
Well, here's hoping that in some ways it stays that way. So that's really cool about the AI stuff with being able to diagnose that through AI is fascinating, because I know that depression is a really hard. I used to work back in my former life before I used to work at a .com in the year 2000, and Prozac was one of the clients that we worked with. So I have this much experience with mental health, but I know that it's typically very difficult to diagnose depression because obviously there's not a blood test you can take, and it's sort of like a checklist and things like that. So that's really interesting that the AI is somehow able to pick up on, I guess, is it subtleties in language or visuals or?
Well, it's all of that. I mean, it analyzes the patient's words or the clinician, we could say patients or we could say clients, however we like to use that terminology, but it analyzes their words, voice, facial expressions, and it's able to detect those subtleties. Yes, and it spits out in an algorithm of at the level of depression. Yes, and, it's meant to be a tool to augment the actual clinician or provider, right? I mean, you can never replace a human, but we can assist and we can help augment the workload that a clinician and a provider has, and that's what our intent is.
That's awesome. And what does you said NI2O, how is that sort of a little different than the iBerry and the?
Yeah, so the NI2O, the NITO, we have a few products under that. We are working on the big Shangri-La is a brain computer chip interface. Yes, size of a grain of rice. It's ni2o.com. Can tell you all about it. But then also we're using a headset, which is a non-invasive neuromodulation headset that can read your EEG states, your brain states, and then deliver a specific recipe to help deal with the symptoms of depression and multiple disorders. Depression, Parkinson's disease, you name all the disorders. And so it's an actually amazing product that is just going to revolutionize mental health and neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah, because I mean, with Parkinson's, and does that also go under the scope of, say, Alzheimer's or those kinds of things as well?
Yeah, it's one of our top ones as well. Yeah,
that's really great.
It is great. I mean, it's been just a blessing to work with phenomenal scientists, phenomenal executives on all of these companies, and they come from just the biggest names in the industries, and because they all want to make a big impact in the world as well, and so they use their expertise to help drive these products and companies forward, and that's why they wake up every day, and why I do as well.
That is so awesome, because I know there's friends of mine are sort of dealing with that with their parents as they're growing older, and so the Parkinson's and the Alzheimer's is a big part of a lot of people's lives. So this is going to really hopefully provide a lot of hope for those people out there, and
Absolutely. And early detection is so key. It's so important. I mean, you can increase the life the quality of life for someone that has already been, diagnosed with before they even know that, and for their future years. If you could just detect it early before they even have symptoms, it's known now that you can detect Parkinson's and Alzheimer's 10 years prior to the onset of the first symptom. So we can, if we can educate the population on early detection, just imagine how this would be for our parents and our grandparents.
Yeah, no kidding. That's phenomenal. I mean, that's oh my gosh, I would love to be the fly in the wall and sort of shadow you for the day to learn more about all this stuff. This is really, really cool. So kind of, I guess one of the things there's a whole bunch of different things I wanted to ask you about. And some of it is really about, like, what are some of the misconceptions that people have maybe about what you do or the organization, about how you help? Are there any misconceptions, do you think, or I'll let you speak.
Yeah, no. So when I read that question at first, I was thinking about it just depends on who I'm speaking to and who is asking. I will tell you, the space that I work in now with all the people that are just all for and understand that technology is here and it is the future, right? And we utilize AI technology every day without realizing it, but the word alone really can scare some individuals. And so I feel that's a big misconception. It truly is, because AI in the right hands is meant to help us. It's not going away. And so really it's just about educating the masses on how helpful this can be to our quality of life. Really, it really is about helping the quality of life.
Yeah. And I would assume that once you say microchip, people go, that's a little bit of that too, right?
Yeah, they do, unfortunately, but that's just because they just need to learn more about it. And then I looked at the question too from a different perspective of the social work aspect of my profession. And many people, when they hear that I'm a social worker, the first name that pops in or thought is, I'm here to just, take your kids away from you. And that is nothing in America. That is a specific role of social workers. But there's a difference. It's a broad spectrum, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, which I'm a clinician, and therefore I address, as a psychotherapist, I address mental health disorders. And so many times, even now in our business meetings or people that we come across, just having that title, they just don't see a connection with social work and mental health at all. And I have to educate them and explain that, no, I'm actually a therapist.
Yeah, as opposed to someone who's going to take their kids.
Yeah.
That would be a big sort of like, I don't want to talk to you because if I tell you what my problems are, then yeah,
sometimes. But I do have the ability to, although I'm an introvert, the one-on-one conversation, I think I can excel at, and I have the ability to be able to just calm someone's suspicions down when they have that initial thought, and just meet them where they're at and have a good conversation to where they feel comfortable being vulnerable with me, I would say.
Yeah, which is I'm sure not necessarily easy for a lot of people to be vulnerable, but you're so warm and approachable. I can't imagine that it would be really hard for you to break down too many barriers.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
So you mentioned leadership. I mean, that's a big part of all the roles that you've had, including the current one. So what do you think are some of the traits that you think a good leader sort of possesses?
Well, there's so many leadership traits that one could possess. And I truly believe that you need the right leader for the right position and for the specific mission, honestly. But I think the commonality that is essential for success in leadership, a leadership trait, to me, my opinion, is having emotional intelligence, honestly. The ability to manage your own emotions and manage others' emotions, right? That is so key and essential, because you could have a person in the room with the highest IQ of intelligence, or the best strategic analyst in the room as a leader, or but if they have no way to read the room, to read the emotions of the people at the table, then they're not going to be an effective communicator. They're not going to be able to relate and deliver the information that's needed, right? And so once you have that, And if you do have a good emotional intelligence level, EQ, then I feel that all the rest of the great traits that we should possess as a leader, they just follow suit.
Did you have did the U.S. Army help you with like learning leadership skills, or was that something that you sort of learned on your own separately?
I think it's all dependent on the individual. Of course, though, they definitely teach us leadership skills, right? The emotional intelligence part, I think that has to be experiential, right? I grew up in Southern California, hippie parents, I would say hippie beach parents. And so I was always aware of my surroundings. And so I have an uncanny ability to read people very, very well. And so that has always been something that I've relied on to help direct my strategic leadership decisions and deal with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would and this is probably because of movies and things like that. I would think I just think of that drill sergeant, which there's probably an essence of that with the Army, but then there's all the nuances, like you said. You sort of have to know when to push people probably, and when to sort of back off a little bit when people sort of need positive reassurance or negative. So I guess all that comes into play too, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, there's, just like I said, it needs all types of leaders. You need a drill sergeant when you need a drill sergeant, and you need a leader that can be approachable, that you can approach, that can be empathetic, that can look at the individual and meet them where they're at in their specific goal, right? So you just have to be a multifaceted leader, I would say. But also, that's where it's so important to have the EQ, right? Because you can't do that if you only have your drill sergeant hat on, right? And that's it. We still have to actually leave our day jobs, right? And go back to our families. So the ability to turn that off and on is really essential.
And it's something that probably is people. Pardon?
And you can't do that without reading people, or you can't do it well, I should say.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a soft skill that, I mean, I don't even know how one would teach another person how all those soft skills about EQ, to read the situation. Is it just experience, I suppose? Because
you're right. I mean, I feel like I've had the upper hand just with my upbringing on that. But yeah, I believe that you can teach that also. I mean, at least giving people the education about what it is. I mean, nowadays I'm finding that there's multiple courses about EQ, which we didn't learn growing up in the military. We didn't even emphasize that. But it is very important, and I'm glad that it's out there now to educate people. Because just being self-aware, just being aware, and so many people don't, they have their blinders on and they're just not aware. So awareness of this is the first step.
Yeah, which I'll probably dovetails in with mental health too.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So I think it's also helped me with my ability to have that and develop that great rapport with an individual that I'm speaking to, whether it be just my coworker, a business partner, or a client if I'm seeing patients.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the questions that I often ask, and I think we've had this discussion before, is that when I'm writing my LinkedIn profiles for the people that I work with, is okay, so what makes you different than everybody else? And what is the unique value that you bring? Which is one of the toughest questions out there. So is this ever something that you've struggled with as well? Like, insofar as if someone were to say what makes you different than everybody else, Tanya?
Leslie, and this. Yeah, that was a stumper for me. I could not tell you what makes me unique. And that sounds so cool, right? Because rationally, I can look at a piece of paper and say I know what makes me unique, but I struggled with that. And you remember, I was like, well, what do you mean? What makes you unique? I'm just me. This is who I am. This is what I'm conditioned to be. So it was a challenge coming up with that, and I thank you for helping me dive through that. And so when we talk about this topic, one of my mantras, like we'll talk about in a little bit, is just to rely on your past experience and what got you here today. And so maybe not what makes me unique, but what I could say is different than the average person in my space right now. I would say, there's only 1% of the people, right, in the population that really enter the military in our nation. So that I'm already in that 1%. And with that, the leadership skills that I've obtained, my multiple combat deployments and dealing with the soldiers downrange there, or overseas, I should use the civilian terminology. That is a key differentiator right there. And so whenever I get the imposter syndrome or the intimidated feeling at sitting at the table with who I'm sitting at the table with in some of our interactions and meetings, or I would say meetings with others, not my internal team, I have to remind myself that I'm the only one here who's been to war. So what are you going to tell me, right? Just to psych myself up, because that is a key differentiator. And we've learned so many skills, those of us who've been through the military ranks, and I need to remind myself that occasionally.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons, as I said before when we were talking, was so such a wow and fascinating story. As you said, sort of growing up with the hippie parents, and then moving into so going from a really sort of loosey-goosey environment where there was no structure into a very structured environment must have been a huge change, and how much you've learned through all that. And then to take that into an executive role, when you said to me that, you're moving into a civilian role, and you've been so used to that, the learning for me was that you had been so used to the military life that moving into a civilian role was at the time a little overwhelming, which sounds like a stride.
It was. So I went from a little bit of chaos growing up into a very structured environment, which worked well for me at the time. It worked extremely well, and I needed that. We needed that. And so you learn that over 20 years, it's ingrained in me. So yes, moving off into the civilian world, it was a bit of a transition. But my bosses and my peers, they were fully aware of it's going to take me a little time to understand that it's not as structured. And I appreciate their grace in that, because I did come with, why is it no one on time for the meeting type of response? Because, for us in the military before, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. So it has been a transition for me, a challenge a little bit, but I worked through it. I gave myself a year, and I fully embraced the non-structural aspect of this startup environment, and I'm owning it.
Well, I mean, yeah, the startup environment is not even just corporate world. It's a whole different world where it's like every day is so very different. Like it's the antithesis of structure, I'm sure, in a big way. And you're managing 3 different brands underneath the umbrella of all of this. So I'm sure you probably feel like you have a lot of spinning plates going on at the same time with all the different things that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is, and sometimes it is a bit much. But I rely on my past strengths, and, I'm not at war. And that is one thing I remind myself. I am not in a war zone. I can go to work, with my yoga pants right now under this nice shirt, and no one would know.
Right.
I can wear heels instead of combat boots. And so I can manage this level of chaos and unstructured, and I embrace it. I just embraced it now. And so I think it's made me feel very positive about an environment that I am in now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I've had this discussion with other people too, that COVID has really then thrown another monkey wrench into all of this, and has helped a lot of people sort of reprioritize the importance of family time and mental health. Mental health has been such a huge, I think, even with my own family, I noticed that now that we're sort of 15 months in, there's just sort of been a lack of motivation. It's like we're not out, and we're not, and hopefully things are starting to open up again, but just not having that access of getting a sense of accomplishment every day. It's almost like that apathy really has started to set in. Some people right in the beginning, they've found that the mental health was really struggling in the beginning. For my family, we're sort of seeing it more now, where we're kind of like, I know this needs to get done, but it's just too much. It's like, it's just the thought of it. So it is interesting. And I wonder how many people are recognizing the need to sort of just reprioritize, self-care, family time. In some ways, having to face this pandemic has sort of been a mixed blessing for, I think, a lot of us. Yeah,
I would definitely agree. And as you can see the statistics, the mental health cases and the need for mental health services has skyrocketed during the pandemic for multiple reasons, for within the children community, adolescent community, as well as the first responders community, but then just for the everyday person as well. And so I think that we are in the forefront of addressing this right now. And then with our technology, our future technology aspects, I think that we can get ahead of it. It's just relevant in the world today, and we're addressing it.
Yeah. And I think, thankfully we have technology. I keep saying this to my 14-year-old all the time. Like, I can't even imagine what our lives would be like if we didn't have this access to video technology, that my, kids taking school online, or my son has so many different friends that are virtual friends that he's never even met in real life because he's into gaming and things like that. And I think that certainly has helped him. I mean, some kids haven't fared so well because they want that face-to-face interaction. For my kid, who usually is sitting in this seat, he's away offline, if you can believe it. He's away offline this week, and I think he's struggling with that a little bit, from disconnecting from all of his technology. But he's sort of transitioned okay through that. But not every kid can do that. But I invested more in technology than I did with sports, so maybe.
Well, it is different for everyone. It's an individual, case by case basis, and it's just important to have balance. So balance is another key word that one should remember as part of their everyday lives. Like you have to balance your work, technology as a part of your work, and family life, right? Mm-hmm. And just being outdoors and being present. Again, we can get caught up of being in, the Zoom has, had us at the computer nonstop all day, every day, to where people had to step back and say, whoa, we need to interject breaks here because now we are hyper connected. And so there is a balance with that. And there's quite a few studies that are out there now, and a lot of education programs showing us how to address it.
It is, because I don't even, absolutely. Where's my phone? It's like almost all of us have these devices. In fact, I don't know the statistic off the top of my head, but that people would rather lose the sense of smell or taste than lose their phone. That, that we are, almost all of us are tethered to our devices 24/7. And so what is that doing to mental health? And what is that doing to, the Insta-worthy lifestyle of making everyone look perfect, and seeing behind the scenes that these influencers are struggling with mental health because the persona that they put out there isn't certainly the persona that they're living with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic that I think we could spend an hour talking about that.
I know. As people are sort of growing up through this, growing up in the digital age, it's in the cancel culture and being worried about putting themselves out there. And so in some ways it's helped to empower people to become a brand and put themselves out there. And on the other hand, as somebody said to me once, the greatest thing about social media is that everybody's got a voice, and the worst thing about social media is that everybody's got a voice. So it comes with empowering people, but also disempowering because of the worries of judgment and am I still keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. With all of that stuff. But you're right. That's a discussion for another time, I'm sure.
But it's a worthy discussion. Have me on again and we can go through that.
Yeah, because it's something that I talk about with my students in the digital footprint. I mean, that was one of the first assignments that I give to my college students is, would you hire you based on that digital footprint? And it's an interesting exercise for them because they don't typically get out of, what I say all the time is, when you're inside the jar, you can't see the label. Which was like, when I heard that, right? Most of us don't ever, get an objective. We don't look at ourselves as objectively because we're so subjective. We're in the jar. And so really looking at it from that lens can sometimes provide perspective on, like, when I publish something, should I be publishing that, right? Anyway, that's a whole other thing, right? But
I agree. I would love to talk further about that.
I know it's pretty interesting because it's not something that I think we all realize. And also the other part of it, as I continue on my little talk here, is the digital body language that happens too. That the way that we treat other people online isn't the way we would treat people face to face, which I think is so fascinating. That people are trolling, or anyway, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but it is really quite interesting the way that we engage and interact with people, not recognizing that we're dealing with another human being. So there's a whole little psychological disconnect from that standpoint too.
You're absolutely right. It's like we're protected by this screen, right? So we feel empowered to say or do or talk however we want, whether it be text, which, as you know, people assign their own emotions to the text they're receiving, and so that's a whole miscommunication aspect in itself. But like I said, we could talk a whole nother session on this because it's so fascinating. It is fascinating, and it is impacting our younger generation significantly.
It is, yeah. And so how to empower them and make them, anyway, that's a whole, we could totally go down that path, because I took psychology in university as well. So I feel like you and I are like the same, like in so far as like wanting to help people and wanting them to communicate better and to ladder up and things like that. So yeah, we're both in the same mindset, except I'm far too lazy to be getting up at what time in the morning?
What time? Oh gosh. I'm gonna say 5. I wake up at 5, but I do occasionally wake up a little earlier at times. But my mantra right now is just embrace it. Embrace the change, embrace whatever nuances I have, and own them.
Yeah. I'm a night owl, so I'm embracing that I'm sleeping in the morning as opposed to the opposite. But I think sometimes maybe I should be more productive at night as opposed to just sort of lying there watching television.
But it's our genetics as well. My daughter is a night owl also, and then some of the people I work with are night owl, but they produce a lot at night. That is just when their brain starts functioning best. I just happen to function best in the morning.
I wish I did. I wish I was a morning person, because it just seems like, it's more productive. Like, that, what is that? You get more done. What's that statement? I think the Army is like, you get more done before people even get up for the day or something like that.
And we do. Yeah. We've accomplished, and we get more done before sunrise, before most people are awake. I mean, you could say it in multiple ways, but that's what happens when you're up at 4:35 in the morning. You have around 3 hours of solitude time, focused time. For me, it's my quiet time. It's my, I can work on me at that time. I can get a little exercise in if I choose to. If I don't, I can just relax and do a little meditation or some of my own personal readings. It's just whatever you want to do with the 3 hours that most people would be sleeping. And you can turn that around, Leslie. You can do that at night. Your son's asleep. The house is quiet.
Yeah, that's true. I think that, I was talking with somebody yesterday about this, that there's a lot of leaders, like the best time to get, if someone were out pitching or selling to a leader, it's usually those morning time, like that morning time when they're actually most accessible. So I think there's something to that, Tanya. I think that, leadership is an early person's game, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they have a book about it as well. I was really happy to see that.
I'm sure. So if you had a career do-over at all, would you change anything? Or,
That's a great question. That is a great question, because I believe that I am who I am today as a leader, as a person, based on my experiences in my career. So I would not want to trade them. I would not want to trade them. But if I had to answer that and go back and say what I could add, maybe do a little different, but add to all my experiences, but I would tap into my woman tribe, my woman peer group, and mentorship. I would say I did not do a lot of that. And in the military, there for me, even though I worked in the Medical Service Corps, there weren't a lot of female mentors that were accessible to me. Of course, I had a lot of peers, and I maintained great relationships there. But I think it's beneficial for us as females, women, to tap into the expertise of women leaders. We can learn a lot from them and from their experiences. And unfortunately for me, I didn't have a lot of those. I think it wasn't until the end of my career, my last job, that I got to work for a phenomenal woman leader. And I learned so much from her in the last 3 years of my military career. So I think that is something that I would change. I would do differently or add to my experiences. I think though now in the culture that we have today, it's women mentors and women leaders. It's much more prevalent, right? So I'm hoping that my daughter and the younger generations get to experience something that I didn't really, and then I want to hope to give back to that.
Well, you're 100% right. We didn't have it's the same thing like mental health. We weren't talking about female leaders.
Right.
that long ago. Like, it's only been in the past few years that female empowerment, female leadership has really become at the forefront of the discussion. You know, we sort of and to your point, like you were in a male dominated industry. So where were those women leaders? And it is an exciting time. And a girlfriend of mine, which was pretty profound, had said to me that oftentimes women leaders, once they get to the top, they pull the ladder up behind them. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty profound statement, because sometimes because women can be awfully competitive with each other. But I love your perspective insofar as embracing it and finding ways to pay it forward to the next generation of women.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important. It's very important because, you know, us older women, we have a lot of wisdom to impart. Whether we didn't always get it right, and they need to. Our younger ladies need to hear that. They need to hear that we're not perfect, that we had struggles, so that they can, you know, learn from them instead of going through such trials and tribulations that we had to like pave the path for, right? You know, even in my industry now, it is, there's not a lot of women at the table, which was enlightening to me, eye-opening. I think I remember I mentioned that in the military, you from the outside looking in, you'd expect to hear that there's, you know, it's a male-dominated society. We don't have a place at the table. But once we have our place at the table, the respect is there. In my experience, you know, of course, you're going to come across some knuckleheads, right? But that's everyday life. But I would honestly say that it's a little bit flipped. Coming into this industry in the business world, I was just wowed at the fact that I was the only woman at the leadership tables. And the deals aren't made at the office in the daytime at the meetings. They're made out and about, networking, engagements, dinners. And so it's different. It's different. So again, it is key and essential to me that we need to tap into our women resources and mentorship roles.
Yeah, and someone gave me the perspective once, is I was sort of in an environment where it seemed to be a little bit more male dominated. And someone reframed that for me and said, that's actually a really good place of power, because you're bringing the female perspective into it that you haven't necessarily, this group hasn't necessarily had, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I don't necessarily have to feel insecure, intimidated that I'm the only woman there, or have my own voice and being able to speak up from that perspective. So,
and that is a great perspective. You know, I count my blessings. The males that I work with now, I in all the companies, they embrace women's perspective. At the company Anito and Howard Brain Scientists, I think Dr. Howard, the majority of his leadership are women, and so and on Onberry as well, they embrace women leadership, and their perspective is very, very refreshing to me. It's when we engage with the outside business partners, I don't see a lot of us there.
Yeah.
Again, you know, I just come to the table and say my little mantras in my head, and I'm there.
Yeah, a huge difference for me was reading Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. Was a huge game changer for me, because I thought to myself, well, if somebody who's arguably, you know, one of the biggest COOs of like one of the largest companies in the world, if she has had insecurities of like literally when she's like her whole the metaphor is like leaning in and sitting at the table, because I think what I got from the book was that she didn't sit at the table, she sat in the back row. Yeah. And for her, who like for Sheryl Sandberg, who is Ivy League educated, I mean, she's had so much great experience and so forth. And if she didn't feel like she was enough, I'm like, okay, so this makes me feel like I'm not alone, which therein, you know, brought this is why I'm doing these conversations. It's because I think the more like mental health, like female leadership, like imposter syndrome, the more we talk about it, the more we demystify it, and the more we can empower people to go, oh gosh, it's not just me. Because a lot of times I found, Tanya, too, that I was like, oh, it's a female thing, or it was a Canadian thing, because Canadians are typically a little less, we're a little more conservative, I think, or a little less, it's a much more passive aggressive society here in Canada, where we're not as forthright with exactly what we just go, okay, and then we just kind of go away and work around things, as opposed to just telling it like it is. So I thought it was all of those things, but really I've learned that it's all of us, that we're all struggling with those same things. So it is more empowering to have these discussions for sure. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
So the last question I think I have for you is like the mantra, motivational phrase, your belief, any last words that you want to share?
Well, I think that one key thing is important for us all to be comfortable with is that uh, our mantra can change at each new chapter in our life, right? It doesn't always have to be one, right? Because we are different. Different people from when we were when we first, started our career paths and our career journeys. So I say just embrace who you are right now. Be authentic. Be authentic when you come to the table. Be authentic and just dig down and get it done.
Own it.
Yes.
Own your value. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is yeah, I think it's a struggle. And I think I had that realization not too long ago. I figured by the time I turned 50, I would have all this stuff figured out. And it's still a struggle. It's still something that we're learning. But as I said, the more we talk about it, the more I demystify it, and the more I can feel like, again, reframing those things in my head to make sure that I'm not standing in fear of judgment. And that's, I guess, the other thing about the benefit about getting old too. I don't care as much as I used to.
Really. I love that aspect of our aging process, right? It's just like we've been there, done that. Like I don't care. Who am I here to impress? And telling ourselves those little mantras as well. We just, we're here to do good deeds, right? And our values are at the table. We want to do the right thing. We have good character when we come. We have good judgment as best as we can because we know we want to do the right thing. So if we come to the table with that, and being authentic, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and and I think maybe it is it's that the older we are, the more we realize that we do bring value. We do know something, and also realizing that all those silly. I guess internal discussions that we had in our heads when we were younger, that how we appear to other people is so very important when we really have to go internal and realize that it's your point. Like if we're being of service, which sounds like your entire family has that sort of mindset of being of service. If you're being of service and you show up and you do your best work, that's all you can do. So
yes, great way to capture that. You've always helped me with that.
Well, this is the first time we've actually seen each other face to face. I just adore you. I told you that when we first chatted on the phone. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And your role continues to be so fascinating. And I'm excited to learn more. And so if people wanted to reach out to you, how could they reach out to you?
Oh, they can easily reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile that I believe you have here. Would be too easy. And then, all the websites are attached to that. I can be reached by that easily.
Awesome. Yeah. So Tanya Juarez, and I'm going to make sure that everybody has the link to your LinkedIn address. And I know there's other people I want to connect you with as well, because I think, the people in the mental health industry, maybe here in Canada even, that can help. I think if we all work together, hopefully we can sort of bring an end to some of these diseases and so forth. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. I really enjoyed our conversation. I always do, but I love this opportunity. And thank you for bringing me out of my introvert shell and getting me to do it and commit. I appreciate that, Leslie. I appreciate you for all that you're doing for us.
You're a doll, and you're a natural on camera. So if I were you, I would be on all shows all the time if I look like you. So.
Thank you. You're too kind.
Well, thank you again, and have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye, Leslie. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.